Welcome to Extremely Live. I am Micah Rock and Roll, and I am here with the illustrious illustrator, Alex Eckman. Oh, excuse me. Alex Eckman-Lawn. There we go. Alex X-Men. He's a Wolverine type guy.
We'll be unpacking that for the next hour.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I've been doing my research. I went to your website. I was looking at your portfolio. You have done everything you can possibly do as an illustrator. I feel like you have found, like you've worked on comic books. You're in tons of galleries. You like straddle the line between fine art and just like commercial illustration, and then also comic books and young adult kind of novelty type like materials. That's pretty impressive. Is that is that something you actively tried to do, or something that just kind of happened? Or let's start there, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely not intentional. I was like trying to do comic covers when I was like in school. Like my goal was to do to work with bands and to do like book covers or album or fucking comic covers if I can. And so I was posting on some forum that I think is now since been deleted like 10 years ago. But I met the guy who I am like still making comics with then, and put together like a quick pitch that we were like both surprised to find was accepted. So like I kind of like, I never thought it would happen basically. I never thought it would happen to me. But at that age, I was like, if this could be like my job, you know, who am I to turn down sort of actual paid illustration work, like paid illustration work. So I love comics and have loved them since I was a kid, but I did not expect to work there.
Yeah.
But now I'm sort of back to like, now I am doing covers, which rules. I think like, this might be getting way off topic.
No, go for it.
I'm thinking lately a lot about like, so I'm nearly 40. I'm like extremely close.
Same.
And theoretically cool, so you understand.
Yeah.
That's when you start like friends of mine who are in their 40s and have been doing this for a long time are like, this is when you start really seeing like the payoff, which I don't in some, like not financially, but I think about like all the jobs I get to do that like I would be so stoked to hear I'm doing when I was like, 18 or like 6 years old, and in that way I do feel like super gratified. So like, to actually answer your question, I love all this stuff, and basically like I'm truly a freelance illustrator in that like if something comes up, I usually am interested in doing it unless it's something I'm like morally opposed to,
Right.
So like I am, it's a pretty good indication of who I am, weirdly. And I do occasionally like struggle with like right now I'm working on a comic again, like interiors, and I forgot somehow that's just so much work. So right now I sort of wish that I didn't have like 3 different things going on at once.
Yeah, dude, you're speaking my language. I literally am trying to finish like a 12-page comic. I'm like, maybe I can get it down to 8. Maybe I can find a way to because all of a sudden I've got a friend he's like a writer on a Disney Channel cartoon, and he's like, can you do like background kind of vibe images for an animation pitch? And I'm like, well, I can't turn that down. That sounds awesome. Right, yeah. So like, and then I got this other guy who's like, hey, I'm a video editor is my main deal. Same thing, like freelance, just taking anything as it comes in. And I've basically made the world aware that I'm interested in doing more illustration-y type stuff. And now that's coming in on top. And it's like, dude, it goes from like 0 to 100 with like workload. You're like terrified you're never going to work again. And then you have to do 3 things at once.
You're saying, yes, 100%. This is like every day I'm like catch myself complaining that I'm like, I have so much to do. And then I'm like, well, that rules actually.
Yeah.
That's great. I just need to maybe plan my time better.
Yeah. That's definitely my issue. Well, let's rewind a little bit. I'm glad we jumped into the now, but I kind of want to know It says on your site you're Philly based.
Mhm.
Where did you grow up originally?
So I was born in West Philly,
Nice.
but like my family moved out to like the main line when I was 6 or so. I kept going to school there for a little while. Um, but yeah, I spent like my I don't know, formative years, like
Yeah.
teenage years in the suburbs, which uh there's like good things about it. I met nice people, but I am like so glad to be back in Philly. I think like kind of the first, once I was looking at colleges, I was like, obviously I want to get
Yeah.
back to where that feels a little bit more alive. And also that's mean. I don't know. There's lots of cool shit in the suburbs, but
No, I know what you're saying. I get it.
I want to be able to walk. I want to be able to choose a direction and find like a little treat in like a coffee shop. You know, like I want to be Belle and Beauty and the Beast.
Yep. I'm in New York City. It's the city of little treats. Like there's like some building with something fun inside of it for you to spend more money than you should at every turn.
You know, for better or worse, it seems like you and I have a very similar mindset.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. So you got outside your city, but you're striving to get back. I'm curious what what you were consuming around that age. Like what kind of things are you taking in? I wrote down some theories of things you might have been into, but I want to hear from you.
All right, I am very interested in your theories.
All right.
But when I was a kid, I loved like comics. I read Marvel comics and stuff, and I was like, I read How to Draw the Marvel Way, and like was like begging my dad to photocopy pages so I could like study them at home and stuff.
Yeah.
And I like copied my Street Fighter 2 manual. I remember getting the little spin kick drawing. I was
Dude,
like, yeah.
Game manuals are incredible. I miss them so much.
Like that kind of art is a huge inspiration to me.
Totally.
But that era when it was like, you know, that was what an illustrator did. Like they did full paintings, like beautiful illustrations. And I was really into that stuff. And then in like my teen years, I was like a big weeb. Like I loved anime and
Nice.
comics. I still am. I was.
Yeah.
I'm the same dork I ever was.
Yeah.
And that stuff, like I think my parents like encouraging me. Basically, I was like, I think I'm really into this thing, and it's like there's drawing involved.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like what I'm interested in about it. And like instead of them being like, why are you, you know, wasting all your money on this dork shit?
You're right.
They were like super supportive.
Yeah. You got to be in the coal mine, son.
Not that. They even like, dude, I basically like, I was just talking about this with another artist. Like the reason I was ever able to do this and still am basically is because my parents supported me.
Yeah.
Like both financially at times, but also like we're like, go take Saturday art classes. Like I did that.
That's cool.
Pretty young. I think that's like the formative stuff is just like they took me to the art museum. They showed me that like art could be cool and important to me.
Right.
And even though I did not really like connect with I don't know, like the stuff you're supposed to like when you go to the art museum. Like I still actually don't like Renoir. He's like my nemesis, which is very stupid and petty. But like, yeah, like Impressionism wasn't my thing. Mm-hmm. But then I realized like, oh, but there's art I love so much. Yeah, and then like as you get older, you start realizing like those guys were influenced by more of the stuff you thought you didn't like than you realized, and so on and on. But yeah, nerd stuff is the short answer to that question.
That's cool. That's cool. Were you? So my theories were more leaning into the nightmarish. Like, are you into horror at all? Because a lot of your art feels very kind of cosmically dark. Kind of is how I would describe it.
Yeah, I went through a phase, like a phase. There was a while where people would tell me that, and I'd be like, I don't really see that. And I actually like truly didn't. And now I'm realizing it's just because like, well, whatever. I think that shit comes one because I had a scoliosis surgery when I was like 12 years old, which like it's not. It was sad and hard, but I'm fine, you know.
Right.
But it was a surprise. Like I had no idea. I think my growth spurt like went into the curve in my spine.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So there was just like a childhood trauma, the classic.
Yeah.
And then so like I was so afraid of horror movies because my parents didn't watch them. Like they were like, those are too scary for us. Mm-hmm. So I thought like something could happen to you when you watch them. And then like in my, I would say like later than most people, but like my teens, I started like sneaking over to my friend's house and watching them, and that was a big deal to me because it felt like overcoming something. I guess I don't know if I would have put it in those words at the time. But no, you're right. I have a lot of really specific like film influences, like David Lynch, Cronenberg is a huge one. Okay. I mean, there's no mystery there.
Yeah. No. I wrote down David Lynch. I wish I thought of Cronenberg. That's a good one. I wrote down. I'll tell you what I wrote down.
Yeah, please.
Which now that you're saying Cronenberg, I'm like, I should have wrote that down. But I wrote down Lovecraft because a lot of your stuff kind of feels like small New England town horror, gothic horror type, like it kind of has that feel to me for some reason, like the 1950s portraits of a well put together guy whose face is like carved into, like that kind of a thing. Right. And I wrote down, I wasn't fully sure, but every now and then your stuff has like this almost like alien quality to it, like some kind of weird disfigured aspect. So I wrote down H.R. Geiger as like a potential touchstone.
Giger's a big one for me. Partly just because like there's an artist who was like about one thing and, like, just so good at it, but it's like exactly all that guy shit. But no, I love his work. I still sometimes I look at it, I'm like, how did he do it?
Yeah.
Like some of the most iconic shit. Like, so okay, something happened to me in my like probably late 20s where I realized that H.R. Giger, Mobius, and maybe that's it. Maybe Otomo, like Katsuhiro Otomo, the Akira guy, have like been involved in things that I like for like my entire life.
Yeah. Like
the designs that actually made me love something were like those guys.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, you're right. Lovecraft, I really like him, but he's such a like I don't like him. I like his writing.
Right.
And that's like, I mean, we all, it's worth acknowledging. I feel like that like there's a little bit of a betrayal there for me where I'm like, cool ideas coming from such a shitty place.
Yeah, totally.
And I think the older I get, the more I'm like an M.R. James guy, which is more just sort of like, it's still like old weirdo stumbling through something he can't understand. Like there's the feeling of like someone who's way over their head or in way over their head.
Right.
I really respond to that. And I love like Lovecraft ideas, like they're hard to resist. But I also just grew up listening to like old time radio horror because I'm a fucking dork. So like, I forget that he was like writing around that time. So like a lot of the stuff that like made horror, the horror concepts that were in the air were like, it's like swirling around that dude.
Yeah.
And I think he just sort of went darker. If I can like make a very clumsy analogy, I also love black metal and a lot of stuff about it that's cool, like originated with bad people. Sort of like a dance, like you gotta like, okay, well I like this a lot, I have to go like do research about this band now, so I do think there's like and fucking man, Egon Schiele, you know him?
No. No.
I bet you've seen it. He does these kind of like corpse-like figures almost that are like really elegant but sickly looking. He was Klimt's like little pal. And whereas Klimt, yeah, well, okay, maybe he was like younger and he looked, I think they like, where he was like his mentor on a certain level.
Gotcha.
He died super young.
What's his name?
Egon Schiele. It's like EGONSCH. IELE. I'm close.
Okay, I think I do recognize this. Yes.
It's one of those ones that like you've probably seen a bunch of times in your life, and then yeah. Again, like a troubled man. I think like what I try to take from that is like there is something about the result is so strong, and now those guys are dead, so I don't have to feel bad about like giving them money.
Right.
But there's something about the like, it's maybe the like thing that led to that is like these are people who are struggling with something. That's like the most optimistic I can get about it. I'm not trying to like use who they are.
Right.
It has made me interested in more artists like that, who maybe like went through some shit.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's it's tricky. Human beings are can be quite scummy, and the more you look into things, the darker things get.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's that separate the art from the artist thing. How willing you are to do that, and yeah, it is what it is. I guess it's yeah.
I think like one, it's easy for me to do it because I'm like, oh, I can overlook Lovecraft's like horrific racism. Like, I do think he made something really cool. I'm honestly more into the things that come as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
So like, he's not even honestly like that good of a writer. He had really cool ideas.
Yeah, that's true.
Whatever. Who am I? I'm not fucking. Alex Eckman-Lawn takes down celebrated author. But I don't like his writing isn't what I respond to. It's the things he's writing about. Totally. And so like I sometimes like post Lovecraft stuff more, where it's like the idea of like a concept so horrific it drives you crazy, or like adaptations of his shit. Like I love what's it called with the pineal gland? Do you know the movie I mean?
Oh.
From Beyond.
Yeah.
And like even like Bloodborne. Again, I'm a big dork. Like the Lovecraft. The take on Lovecraft from a completely different perspective is almost more exciting to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. From that era, I've been reading Robert E. Howard, the guy who did Conan the Barbarian. Insanely good writing. Like, so, like, for some reason, I was under the impression that pulp novel meant garbage, like just bad writing. And when it really means like that, the 1940s equivalent to an action movie, like
it's genre writing. It's like they didn't have a word for it that wasn't insulting.
Yeah, exactly. It's so entertaining. You just made me thinking about talking about Lovecraft. They corresponded, and he would incorporate some of the Lovecraft themes into the Conan novels. So there's like references to like cyclopean giant cities that no one knows who made them, that kind of a thing. Like, yeah, it is the mystery that is interesting, and like that trope of like, I can't convey how horrifying this is, so I won't even try. You just have to trust that like they've been driven insane by how horrifying. Like that, there's something there for sure.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
especially in writing. I think that's part of what's so funny about like, even though I just said I like these adaptations, it's really silly almost to be like, we'll just show you what the unknowable thing.
Yeah,
that's kind of the whole point.
Yeah. Like monster design is really hard. Like to make something that's actually scary to look at is tricky. Like we're talking Geiger earlier. Like the original Alien movie is, in my opinion, incredible. And they just give you flashes of it, like this creature that is extremely well designed and scary looking, but like because they're only giving you hints of it, it's even scarier. And to just monster design, or just designs to evoke like terror are so difficult. Like David Lynch is very good at it in his own weird way of like making you intensely uncomfortable at just like the way a person is delivering a line with their eyes going insane. Like he's also a pretty good master of it.
He's an artist, right? Like he's also a visual artist. He has a very specific idea of what he's trying to get across.
Yeah.
I think like it's rare for a director to have that kind of a specific vision. That's like why Cronenberg's the same way, like he has stuff that it's like, this is what I want to see. You ever see Tetsuo the Iron Man?
No, I know the title though.
So like that guy whose name I can't remember off the top of my head because I'm bad at this. Same deal, like the Shinya Tsukamoto. That guy like has like such a specific vision that it feels like, even I can understand seeing those movies and not liking them, but visually they're just like so arresting to me.
Yeah,
like on the level of these other guys. That it inspires me. It like makes me want to make stuff.
Totally. Yeah, this looks cool.
Also, The Thing.
Very death metal, actually.
Yeah, grindcore in my mind. That's like
oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know that world of music very well, so I'm just like saying the catchphrase.
That was like for me a big part of how like all this like the big Ouroboros of my interests is like I love the music that I make art for, and that helps me like discover other shit. Like there was like a sample from Tetsuo in this movie
that's cool.
album that I loved, and it's like then I finally saw the movie and was like, oh holy shit, of course, you know.
Yeah.
And aesthetically, just the blown out like high contrast. It's just cool to, I don't know. One of my favorite things is seeing the inspiration that comes from something else, like distilled like generations even. Like it's like you realize art is like constantly moving.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Micah, creator of Extremely Live. If you're enjoying what you're watching, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend. Please, that would be amazing. Extremely Live is a podcast and a live stream that is value for value. If you're getting value out of what we're making, we ask that you send us some value in return by going to extremely.live/donate. We'll take anything. We appreciate everything. And with that, let's get back to the video. I'm just thinking of just like imagery that actually evokes negative emotion. And the last thing that really like made my skin crawl was Uzumaki. Have you ever read Uzumaki by Junji Ito? Like that is,
I believe I have.
it's pretty interesting that, just the concept of an entire town getting obsessed about spirals to the point where they all go completely insane and like morph their own bodies and disgusting. Like it's interesting.
Like his approach to stuff is so close to comedy that like it's amazing that he's pulling it off, you know?
Totally. And some of them I'm like, he's like, okay, I appreciate this guy. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that I was a little goofy, but some of them are genuinely just like, ugh, like just so creepy.
There's one about a girl and her brother who like live above their family's restaurant, and it's like really greasy. Like the whole horror of it is that she's just like, you're so gross.
Yeah,
because the brother won't take a shower. And at the end, he like squeezes like a wall of pimples onto her. It's just this like this. It's so gross, but so stupid. Yeah. Like it's like what an 8-year-old would write, but like that, you know, it touches the little dumb kid in me.
Totally.
I love like he's another one, man. That like some of the concepts, like this hole is the hole for me. It was made for me, or whatever.
That
like,
I was just gonna bring that one up because it's so creepy. Yeah,
and it's like a meme now. Like I laugh when I see those images, but like the story is so fucked. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought him up. I'm just like happy thinking about Junji Ito now.
Yeah, he's quite a good horror artist. But let's get back to you. We've been talking about all these other people. So
much more interested in other artists.
As are we all. But your stuff is very, very cool, and people I'll on the video version of this I'll flash some of your stuff for people to see, but for people listening, you should go to Alex's website, which I should have up here. Sorry, where is it? Alex Eckman-Lawn. Eckman is spelled Eckman. Lawn is in your lawn.com. And check out the stuff you're making because it's awesome, first of all. But yeah, again, I'm like just so impressed at your ability to you're not typecast as one thing, which is very rare, I feel like, in art. Like in kind of anything, it's like you kind of get shoved into a category and then nobody lets you get out of that category. Like you are doing, gig posters and album covers. You're doing comic book interiors and covers. You're doing you're in like a million different galleries. So like you have like fine art types being like, this needs to be on the wall for people to see, like, which is kind of like a different energy than even just straight up commercial illustration, which you're also crushing. You've done like, looks like what, like 24 books here. Like you're doing all kinds of stuff here. So I'm curious, you say your parents are super supportive. Your kind of getting serious about art at a young age, doing like classes on weekends and stuff. What was the first, like, I call it big break, but like, what is the first like thing where you're like, holy shit, I'm for real now. I'm getting paid. This is real. Like, this is now a career.
So I guess I'm far enough in my career where like there's a few of those.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, I think I went to go see this band called Psyopus, just like a sort of tech, maybe death. I don't even know what they'd want to be called. A metal band. And they were like,
I'm glad I'm not the only one that can't define these genres.
I am like one of those dorks that loves putting each band in its tiny little category. That's like whatever my kind of brain is. But it doesn't matter for our purposes currently.
Right.
They were staying with a friend of mine, and just were like, hey, like, Bio, we should make t-shirts or whatever. And I was like, like, I could do that. I could do that for you. I think I showed them my DeviantArt.com to give you a sense of how long ago this was and how like not ready, you know. And they were just like, sure, fucking fine, you know. So like I got $50 for a t-shirt design that was fine. But when I saw it printed, I was like, you know, holy shit, like. And I liked that band too, so like that really did feel like a big deal. But I still work with this label Willowtip and put out a lot of death metal and like prog, it doesn't matter, again, metal. I emailed them just cold in like 2007 and was like, hey, I'm about to be a graduate illustrator, like, do you need anything? In my mind, they're like a huge company, you know, like they'll never get back to me. And dude was like, yeah, we always need something, like like whatever awesome. You can help with. Yeah, but like I do think like one, at the time it was a lot easier to just get in touch with people.
Right.
Like I got work through MySpace. I'm a million years old. But yeah, just like reaching out and getting lucky is a big part of it. Like I think it's silly when artists pretend that it's not.
Yeah, it's a good piece of advice, because I don't even know if people are like scared to make phone calls these days. I wonder if people are like cold emailing companies anymore, even, because shit can come from that.
Yeah, I think like my advice lately is just to try to be nice. You know, just like be an okay person to talk to and be supportive of people. And then when something comes along, like you build your community, and then eventually something will probably happen. It's just to be as ready as you possibly can when that moment. Yeah. So like if they had been like, oh, do you have any art? And I had been like, oh no, I can't show you anything. And I wouldn't, you know? I was like a little embarrassed to be like, here's my DeviantArt account with like my sketches for class, but like,
I don't know. At least it's something. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and yeah, I do think like generally I'm an illustrator. Like I've got illustrator brain. I guess it's so hard for me to say fine art. I make I make original pieces of art for galleries. But
that's so funny.
People need
the guy who loves categorizing bands refuses to.
Not myself. But no, like generally speaking, like it is a job that people want. They need art. Like I feel like I'm bothering people all the time, but it's like I am providing a service, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And like when you're starting out, it's good to remember, like, oh, it's not like rude to ask. Like someone does want to hire you, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what is this? This isn't always an arts like podcast, right?
I just talk to creative people. Like the last interview I did was with a guy who's been in the gaming, video game industry for like 20 years, and I was talking to him about his career. The way I talk about the channel is it promotes and produces independent media of all kinds. So it's like I'm talking to illustrators because I'm personally interested in getting better at that, and but also like comic creators and just anybody making cool stuff that is just a person making stuff for their own benefit, and I want to promote it and get to know these people.
Cool. Yeah. That's great. I just want to get a sense of how much like it makes sense for me to be like, and here's what you should do.
Yeah, no, totally.
Qualified for it anyway. But actually, wait, to answer your question, because I only halfway did it. Something recently just happened that I'm super stoked about, and I don't get to talk about this shit that often. But like I love Dave McKean. He was another like big one for me growing up. And I'm working. I did like a Sandman cover. One of them, they were even like, can you like kind of make like an homage to this specific Dave McKean image? And like,
that's cool.
That felt like something I just like never expected to actually happen.
Yeah.
And if I could have told like little kid Alex, I think he would have like lost his shit.
Yeah, totally.
And then like dumb shit, like I making a t-shirt for a band I like feels really good. Like,
yeah,
I like the bands I work with, but like a band that I loved when I was 18, like that feels different.
Yeah, totally. That's cool. It sounds to me like you are, at least just talking to you now, like you're leaning heavily towards the comic book side of things. Like you keep talking about that. You seem most excited about that. Is
That's
fair
actually
to say?
No, I am. I think I'm just working a lot on it right now.
Gotcha.
I have been lucky enough that people keep hiring me for variant covers. So like it's just a lot of my day.
Yeah.
When I started out, my goal was bands, book covers, bands, book covers, comic stuff. And I do all that.
Yeah.
But the book stuff is a little less frequent. So when that happens, I am like really pumped. I think part of why I'm not like I didn't sign an NDA, but there's stuff that hasn't been announced yet that I can't get as specific about. But no, I genuinely love making book covers. That's like I kind of want to shift towards that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm in my mind. I'm like, that's probably the most badass paycheck, is my guess.
Certainly pays better, but it's work. It's like it's like sometimes the variant covers can be like fun and not that hard. And I think book covers are almost always fun for me, but it's like a different kind of concentration. Like it's a level of like shifting around little elements. And then
I was gonna say, are they the most like hands-on? Like, who gives you the most notes? Like a band, a publisher, or like a comic
always
book?
A band, which is fine. I love this stuff. I think like if I didn't like the bands, it would be different. But yeah, that's all. Well, because it's like another artist. I think that's what's weird about it. Like,
and they're also like you're representing their image, literally their image. So it's like they're so paranoid. I'm sure of like, is this cool? Dude, it's gotta look cool.
The way I would describe it is more like they're very personally invested, and almost every other job, there's someone in between you and that person. So like if I'm doing a book, I'm usually not being hired by the writer, and I know they have a million opinions, but all those conversations happen with like an editor and a whole room that I don't need to be in. It's weird that I'm like praising a middleman basically, but like an art director is like such an important job. Like the older I get and the more I work with good ones, like it changes things.
I've heard this as well. Like I've heard people say that like a good art director is actually like a good thing to work with, like a good person to work with, because it just makes the job flow easier or something. It
makes the job easier in like the practical sense, but also I've had art directors that are like, I really like this sketch, like what if you tried this? And it like actually like it feels like an actual collaboration, and I'm like, that is like you are smart and do this all the time, like I can see why you have this,
that makes sense to me. And like it is always good to like get notes, like as much as it can suck at times, where it's like as a video editor, like when I get like do a 20-minute video and I have like 200 notes, I'm like, how's that even possible? How is every 10 seconds there's a note here? But like when you get an actual constructive note, or I'm like, that's a better decision that I didn't see, like that's that's worth something for sure. It's
more like actual critique. I don't even know if critique's the right word, but like
it's just like literally direction. Like, what if you tried this direction?
I think the best ones can see something that isn't just redoing. Like the worst clients are ones who don't care about what I do and just need like a hand. And that's the job too. Like I don't mind that. It's just it is very impersonal, and by the end I don't feel connected to it. So sometimes I'll get revisions where I'm like, I actually think that makes it worse, but I'm going to do it because you're not really interested in like my perspective on it. But art directors almost never, in my experience, they're a lot more like trained. I don't know.
As a freelancer, like when you get a job like that where you're like, okay, this is, are you able to kind of like take your emotion out of it and just be like not get a, like, because I've seen people who like literally get upset about it. I'm like, why? It's just a job. Like,
I get upset
let that
privately.
go. Yeah, I mean, of course, you got to let yourself like be like, oh, this jackass. But then at the end of the day, you have to just be like, not take it personally and just get it done and move on. Like,
I just want to get it off my
exactly.
like list. My main. I think like a few. How do I talk about this without getting specific? I've had people who are like, I can tell they're sort of taking advantage of me, or they think that they're being really sneaky, and I don't. It's hard in those moments not to be like, come on, like fuck you. I see.
Can you give me
okay?
More of like a specific, just so I can like understand, because this is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If not, it's all good. We can move on.
It's okay. It's all right. This actually, okay. So to preface it, this actually makes it feel less shitty to talk about. Everything worked out fine, and they were cool ultimately. But they sent me an email after the project was done. It was kind of a quick one. I did it like not as a favor, but like I fit it into my schedule because I was like, yeah, I want to help out. And then they sent me an email that was like, just wanted to thank you again for all the work. Like, it's so incredible that you agreed to do that all for free. And like, absolutely, we had never had that conversation.
Oh.
I had to send an email that was like, no, you have to pay me. Are you not able to pay me? I had to take like a day to be like, don't respond because you're angry. Like, yeah, because it's just like that person knew. It's and then like if they had just sent me an email that was like, are you willing to do this for free? I would be less mad, and I just say no. Yeah. I wasn't even asking. It's like I didn't make them pay me a lot, and then when I said no, I definitely need to be compensated. To their credit, they were like, okay, here you go. Like it wasn't. Yeah. They're not bad people, but I do think that it occurred to them at one point, like a conversation might have happened that was like, what if we just say that he said he didn't want to get paid?
Yeah, that would infuriate me as well. That's like a negotiation tactic where you're like, ugh, really? Like now you're putting it on me, like this super uncomfortable place of like, no. Right. Like now is this over now because I want to be paid? Like, right. Yeah.
I think, we were already done. Where I fucked up, and I absolutely,
that's scary.
It is my fault that I did not bring it up earlier. But it's because I had like a good relationship with like one of the people in it. It's fine. Like again, it's fine. Right. I did have a band screw me out of I was working, I'm less mad about this, but like I was working on an album cover for a band that would have at the time been the most like high profile thing I'd ever done. And they are from Sweden maybe. So like the time difference was really big. He I think was coming home at the end of the night when I was waking up, or vice versa. So we'd have these conversations like at weird times.
Right.
But then it turned out, and I was doing all these like very specific revisions to get this album cover ready. But it turns out he had never shown the rest of the band. So like when they saw it, they were like, well, we don't like that. And I just kind of felt like, well, it's not like I would have done things differently if only I'd known.
Yeah.
And then he just I got like an email from their manager that was like, I'm so basically like, I'm very embarrassed to do this, but we're not going to use your art and I can't pay you. So yeah, right. Like the worst, both bad things. And like
that's again, part of freelance, baby. And if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I'm sick of my 9 to 5, it's like, yeah, me too. But also here's the reality of the situation. So be prepared.
Knowing a check is coming is a privilege I don't know. Yeah. Obviously, I have plenty of other cool things about my job in life. And anyway, again, I want to say like these aren't monsters. Like that's like best case scenario stuff. Like I know people who have had truly nightmarish.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've have friends who like are taking companies to like small claims court and shit. Yeah, like that's. Thank God I've never had gone to that level of like
it's never been necessary for me.
Yeah. But. Worst I ever had was like working on a gig, and then all the money was taken care of up front, like we talked about it and we knew what was getting into. But then she's like, after it was over, she's like, oh, by the way, it's we're I think I can't remember what the term is, but it's like, oh, we're like a net 90 company. I'm like, what? And she's like, oh, we don't pay you until 90 days after. So it's like you're waiting 3 months for a paycheck that you're like, I live in New York City. I need money. Like, this is a nightmare.
Exactly. I do pay rent every month, so it's weird.
Crazy that I just did a 2 weeks worth of work that I will not be paid for a quarter of a year. That's the worst that I've had to deal with. So, which, if that's the worst that's happened to you, you're doing pretty good.
Right.
But I want to talk a little more about specifically your process a little bit. Like, you're doing a combination of, you're drawing and like building your own imagery, but you're also like doing like found footage. I would call it like collage. Like, how do you? What's the process of like? Do you see an image in your head first, and then you start hunting for materials, or like just tell me kind of how you go about doing specifically one of your like portraits where you have like the kind of horror portal into the core of this person's brain.
Horror portal, I like that. It depends on the piece. So like when I'm doing sketches for a comic, especially if there's like a likeness that I have to approximate, I have to start with an idea in my head, right? And for those, a lot of times I'll kind of like make a silhouette and then start grabbing collage materials to like chunk onto it. But for my like, I guess personal work, like the gallery stuff, I just like to dig through my like my vast mounds of public domain imagery that I'm hoarding on my computer. And like kind of see what happens. I think that's like man, you can stop me if this gets too pretentious, but no. The idea of like making art sort of stream of conscious and then seeing what it must mean. Do you know what I mean? Like, like sometimes I'll like be working on a few things at once, like not intentionally towards a direction, and be like, oh, this is actually all about like X. And once I can see that, it's like, it feels like the most honest way to get to like what my brain is doing. And then once I know that, I can start being like, okay, so the first 3 are clearly all about that. I have to make 5 more that support that. And then it can kind of become more intentional. But that freedom is like a big part of what I like about collage. Cool. And also probably I have ADHD, right? Like I want like a million options all the time. I want to like keep piling shit on there. And it keeps things like fun for me.
Are you primarily digital? It's like
It's like half and half. So I start in the computer almost always. So for like one of those void face ones, I'll find a photo. This is like 90% of the time. I'll find like many portraits. I'll find. Are you
an Internet Archive guy? Is that where you're going?
So I can reveal my secrets.
You don't have to. You don't have.
No, it's not. See, dude, it's public domain. It belongs to everybody. But like Flickr Commons has like a huge collection. It's getting harder and harder to navigate, which is really annoying. But like Wikipedia also. Oh yeah. Geek Commons or whatever. And then also like the free library of the like every place has a free library with like a huge image archive. I think there's like the British public. Yeah. If you just Google around a little bit. But there's even like newer ones. There's this place called pexels.com.
Oh yeah, I know them.
Which is just like sort of pretty fucking nice modern photography.
Yeah. Do you like have days where you're literally just grabbing images that you like to build a portfolio? You don't know what I don't know what I'm gonna use this for, but it looks cool and I want to save it.
A lot of times I'll be looking for one thing and then it's like I go off on this little spiral. My computer is always like your scratch disks are full. It's like every day because like I have a problem.
You're an archivist.
Sure. My mom is a little bit of a hoarder, and I think that's like happening to me digitally, which is the preferable one. If but yeah, no, I oh shit. Also, there's this new one that I just found out about called public.work. Do you know that one?
No.
I literally had the tab open right now. I just checked it. It's like more like what's that website I never use? Doesn't matter. It's like a grid, and if you click on one, it takes you to another like grid of images that are like that. But you can scroll around like in every direction.
Immediately pleasurable to look at.
Yes, it like ignites every part of my brain, probably in a way like gambling or something. Like it feels unhealthy, but it is super fun and really cool. Like really intuitive. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if more people should know about it. It seems
this is really cool.
powerful. Anyway. So yeah, it does depend. I work in a few different ways, but I didn't even finish my process. So I'll like plan out digitally what's going to happen on the image, on like the face. So let's say I'm using a portrait. I'll usually combine elements from a few different things just to like alter it. Sometimes I add like different shading. Like you said, there's like the like Giger kind of like crud on people sometimes. So I'll like bring that in from like anatomical stuff I have. And then I plan out like the whole, and then it's like I'm making descending images that I know I will cut by hand. So I'm trying to be in control of it as much as I possibly can be. So that's the illustrator brain, is like I want to know what's going to happen.
Right.
And then I get each layer individually printed on like archival paper and cut those all by hand and layer them. But sometimes in that part of the process, I'll be like, oh, it would look better here is if I move this thing around. So like I kind of get to have both a digital and physical collage.
Totally.
The processes. But it was important to me to find a way to like actually get to like touch my art again. Because I love digital art. I mean, I'm an illustrator. I keep saying that, but like my brain is like, I want to solve problems and make a picture. But the tactile feeling of like holding something that you've made is like kind of hard to beat.
I printed my first comic book last year, and it was like eye-opening. Like, oh, this is what I want to spend my time making now, because it's just a different thing when it's a physical piece of media. Like it's something magical about it. Yeah,
that's like I still, if I see like a book cover I did in the wild, like I have to like try to not freak out about it. It's I like can't believe I'm out there.
That's so cool.
I'm glad that hasn't like worn off yet.
It's dude, I try to do as much as I can on pen and paper in real life. Like when I'm making stuff, I do like I've started experimenting with like doing my quote unquote pencils on the computer, just so I can like use like perspective grids and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
Like that's,
you use Procreate?
Say again?
Are you using Procreate?
I started using Adobe Fresco, which
I don't know what that is even.
It's I know everyone hates Adobe right now, but it's a genuinely pretty badass product. And I've been using that over Procreate. I keep seeing these articles about how I can't remember what it was, but it was like somebody whose job is to like curate who gets published at some thing, and they like did this warning where they're like, we can tell when you're working in Procreate, and I don't know if why, but nobody who worked in Procreate got published, and I was like, whoa. Because you can tell, like it. It has a look, like it has a very specific look, which I like. I like the look, but if like everybody is using that look, so I just had this feeling of like maybe I should use different tools, like just for that reason alone, to just differentiate. But go ahead.
People should use whatever like helps them make the art they want to make.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Procreate is badass. Like it's like a fantastic tool. But
it's 10
yeah, exactly.
That's the main thing. I think like people get really so the now defunct art school that I used to go to.
God, my brother too. Same deal.
It's they were like about to ban Procreate as a tool.
Whoa.
Because they're like, it's not the industry standard, which I understand, but it's like, so like, think about how many like roadblocks there are to starting in art already. It's like, I feel like that is like actual gatekeeping, whether they mean it to be or not. Like $500 a year for Photoshop or $10 once for Procreate, like fuck off. Let people draw on the thing that like
yeah, totally.
I also think like there's probably so much more work made in Procreate that just looks good and you can't tell. I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox.
No. I am by no means anti-Procreate. I just noticed like there is some weird backlash growing against it. It's interesting that your schools like don't use it. That seems extreme, but
they also immediately went out of business. So I wouldn't listen to them. That was for some like shady shit though. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
I do think that the lesson for me there is like, yeah, you should try and don't use a tool that looks exactly like everyone else. Like there are brushes that are really tempting to use, but they've been used so much. I think that's part of it. It's like there's a crust to the line that just gives it away. You know, but you can make brushes. Yeah,
I watched an interview with Brian Boland, who's I don't know, he did the cover for The Killing Joke, you know, with Joker with the camera, and he was famously pen and ink, and then he switched to Photoshop, and he like never looked back. But what I found interesting about him is he says all he uses is the pencil tool, like literally pencil, 1 pixel, and just draws with that. And I'm like, that's pretty badass. Of like, I'm not fucking around with brush packs. I'm not like he's literally just like, I make it thicker if I think the line should be thicker, and like that to me is very interesting. Like that of just literally using the most bare bones, like MS Paint level. Yeah. Like it's literally like, you know, drawing pixels. Like there's no like feathering or anything. So I took inspiration from that and have been experimenting with literally just using the pencil tool. And it's a powerful way to go.
Yeah, it's inking with undo. Like, I think people forget that like you don't need to use every part of like the tool available to you. Like if you just want to draw in a way that's more convenient, like there it is, you know? Yeah. I do find sometimes he's one of the rare examples that like took to Photoshop.
I know.
A lot of it's like they lose everything that was cool about their work.
Yeah.
I think that's part of why there's this like backlash.
Yeah.
There's
Interesting.
like very, very talented pen and ink guys just sort of being like, oh, I can use gradients and it looks like shit. Or like all the character work is gone. Like, I don't know.
Don't get me started on Western comic book coloring. Like, I do not understand how, dude, I don't understand how the West has not looked at manga and been like, let's take that from that. Let's take that. Like, it's insane to me that like, even down to like the Viz like comic book size. Like I live in New York. That is the perfect size to like read on the train. And like to read a floppy is annoying. Like it's annoying.
I'm not buying floppies anymore. I also like there was a Trad Moore Doctor Strange.
I don't know.
Sorry. He does like real weird. He did a Silver Surfer that everyone loved also.
Oh, cool. Is it the like super like almost like 70s psychedelic thing? It's probably the one Doctor Strange thing where I'm like, ooh, I want to get that. It looks cool. I assume.
I was looking forward to it. I was like, I'm not buying single issues, but I will buy the collection. I think they've since changed this, but the first collection they released was like oversized, like fucking huge hardcover. And I was like, I can't fit that in my tiny apartment. Yeah. And like I don't want to be on the train like with a tome.
Yeah. A spell book.
Right. Well, maybe that's but yeah, I do think comic book coloring is in the West or whatever, like is in the best place it's been since the way old days. Like there are very talented people now working.
Yeah.
It was a rough spot in the 90s. Yeah. Like looking back on those.
It got gnarly for a little bit. I agree. Like modern coloring is nice, but it is like I honestly love black and white comics. Like I think they look beautiful. Like
I think I mostly read indie comics these days. So like they're a little bit more like it'll be like a 2-color book.
Yeah.
Or just the artist has time to like paint it or whatever, you know? Like that doesn't feel like it's the process that you need to get finished in a month. When you think about it, making a comic in a month is like absolutely absurd.
I don't know how it's done. Like even like in Japan, they're like literally killing themselves with those weekly deadlines. That's insane. But like even monthly is insanely impressive to me that people can
Yeah.
pull that off.
I think like not to we're just deep in the weeds now, but
That's fine.
I didn't realize that in Japan, like manga gets made by a team.
Yeah.
Like you have like lots of assistants.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like one person drawing it all themselves.
Yeah, totally.
That makes sense though. Like it's smart, unless
I
you're
don't
like
know.
a person.
Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say I don't know
Uh,
how you would hit those deadlines otherwise.
yeah, a week. Like, um, but no, like you ever read like Ping Pong,
No.
or Tech on Concrete was like his most famous one.
Yes, I haven't read that yet, but I've been reading dude, Tokyo These Days is by the
I
same
just
dude.
bought that. That's
It's
sitting on my.
it's good. It's really
Yeah,
good.
I love his comics.
Me too. Like I love his I love reading something that has like a scratchy kind of homemade style, and it's like it just gives me hope, like, oh, I don't have to look like perfectly like copyright Disney, perfect beautiful lines, like commercial can be on a mug. Like my art can be my art and it can be good,
Yes.
No,
super inspiring both because he's incredibly talented and because he's loose whenever he wants to be.
Exactly.
But he like makes it look good. Like it's as long as as long as it follows the rules set by his own art, like I'll believe any building in any perspective. Like, shit's wrong all the time, but it like looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a big thing for me where like I find a lot of I guess I'm gonna talk shit. I find a lot of modern comic art just a little boring. It's like super realized, like their draftsmanship is great, but I just like I don't feel anything about it, and that's like not their fault. It's just the way I feel about it. So when I see like indie comics that look like unique, I'm immediately much more drawn to it. Like when fucking manga, like there's a whole bunch of manga that all looks the same, and I don't love that.
Yeah.
But there's the guys that stand out, and it's like I don't know. It makes me want to go home and draw like immediately.
Yeah, totally. What are some indie comics you've been enjoying? Just curious.
There's this guy whose name I probably can't. I'm literally looking at I'm peering onto my little comic shelf over here. His name's Eric Svetoft. He's like Swedish. He made this book called Spa, which is a horror. I guess it's kind of like comedy horror. Really fucking good. Super like interesting and surprising. Really surreal. It's like you really have no idea what's gonna happen. That's like a really beautiful one from last year.
Oh yeah, I like the art. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, it rules. I recommend everybody check that one out. I like was it Linnea Sterte or whatever? She did the Stages of Rot and also A Frog Takes a Walk or something. What's it called? A Frog in the Woods.
Frog in the Fall.
Yeah, yep. Thank God you're here.
No,
her work is like super super beautiful.
Yeah.
Again, like kind of like flowy and loose.
Yeah, it is.
And then there's so much stuff I'm forgetting. Like
it's all good. I put you on the spot.
I know, right? I like a lot of like 70s horror manga. So I've been reading like Drifting Classroom, Cat-Eyed Boy. I like those a lot.
Every time I see Cat-Eyed Boy at the store, I'm tempted to grab it.
You should. It's like you're talking about like pulp writing. It's just so fun to read.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. Like it's literally like he finds a hole in the ceiling so he pees on a monster. I'm still thinking about it. Like I'm like, what is this process that this man draws these comics with? What else do I like right now? I don't know if this counts. I like Vermis like a lot. And it's not really comics.
You're dropping a lot of knowledge for me here, Vermis.
Well, this is like art book, maybe more like it's sort of like a.
Is that the guy's
like
name, Vermis?
No, the book itself is called Vermis. It's like a like a compendium for like a video game that doesn't exist.
Oh, damn, that does look cool.
It's sort of like if you just read a bunch of Dark Souls items descriptions. There is also kind of a story in there, but just a really cool experience.
I've been throwing this idea at people, and I bring it up because it sounds like you and I have a lot of similar interests. I really want to somehow foster a bridge between the indie comic people and the indie video game people, because It just feels like a totally missed opportunity to be like, I just made a successful indie game. I'm flush with cash. Why don't I hire a cool artist to make like some kind of like cool art piece that I can sell to to my fans of my game? Like, why is there not more of that? There's a little bit.
Honestly, there is a little bit. I think it's starting. But I think the real reason is because comics take so much time. You can't take on more stuff. The people that I know that are succeeding are just like self-motivated. Yeah. Like they're just so into doing it that they can't. It's like a compulsion.
Totally.
But I agree with you. I think like some of the indie games, because again, I like a bunch of indie video games.
Yeah.
They have like Celeste has like a comic style that I like.
This is true.
I'm trying to think of others. Like I think there's a little bit of like, especially in the horror, like short horror games.
Yeah. Even again, just bringing back like that game manual thing. Like even if it's like a free PDF you put on your website, like there's just something there like missing that there's just some cool shit could be made.
You're gonna love Vermis. I'm gonna insist that you check it out. That's like exactly what it is. It's not free, cool. But there's another guy whose name I'm gonna have to look up. That maybe I'll send you like after this. He makes like zines. He made like a Dune zine that's really beautiful.
That's cool.
And they're free if you can pay him if you want. But
I'm obsessed with the Japanese like super highly produced fan comic. Have you heard of this? Like the
Dojinshi?
What's it called? What say it?
Dojin.
Yeah,
like,
Dojinshi or whatever. Yeah.
Of course, as a big dork, I know about that.
They have like a convention that's bigger than San Diego Comic-Con of just Dojinshi. Like I would love to see more of that here. Of like, I'm a fan of this thing. Yeah. I'm just gonna make it, and like I think
copyright laws here maybe a little rougher.
It's true. It's true. I feel like you could get away with it at like small cons though. Like be like, this is my naughty corner of like copyrighted art.
Yeah. I think like not everyone. Most people that make money at conventions are already making fan art.
It's true.
Which is kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
I think also, as I understand it, as a nerd who spent a lot of time like, unfortunately, embarrassing to admit, researching this. I think there's like a pipeline from like Dojinshi to actual like published manga.
Yeah.
So like the guy that made Ghost in the Shell, Zashiro, I think his first stuff was like Dojin fan art stuff. So like, I can see it as a little bit more of like and also if there's huge comic conventions, like that could be your whole job.
Yeah.
I mostly just want people to make art.
Yeah. Yeah. It hurts my soul a little bit that America kind of arguably created the comic book and it's like not taken very seriously here. And then in Japan, it's like there's just a million opportunities for people to enjoy comic books and such a wide array of types of people read comics there.
I think this is a thing. This is a uniquely American problem.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to cut you. Like France also huge.
Yeah.
Celebrate. You can get paid just to be a comic artist.
Yep.
Honestly, so tying all this stuff I like together, I saw this band Rotten Sound. That's like a grindcore band from I want to say Sweden again. I'm pretty sure that's right. But they were like touring America because they just get paid to be artists.
Yeah.
Like from their country.
Yeah, totally.
They were like, and like we put an album out every few years because like there is no concern about making the money back. Like. And like that makes me so happy that exists. Like I love that band, and just why shouldn't they be able to?
Yeah.
I think, that's a whole another long and depressing conversation.
yeah, totally.
I did find with that guy, if I can say it real quick. That thing is, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Unfortunately, Arty is what I've heard people say, but it's ARTYOM TUCOVIC. Bakor on Twitter. Anyway, whatever. His shit is awesome. I feel like you may have even seen it. It's like this super kind of like stylized, like blocky way of drawing with like a lot of pattern.
Yeah. Sorry, what is it again? The name?
Let me just make sure that this is in fact the man I'm talking about before I promote someone else. Whoa. Yeah, that's him. Okay, thank God. It's Artym
Mm-hmm.
Tucovic.
Oh, there we go. Just popped up.
Yeah.
Artyom Tucovic. Images. Oh, this is cool.
It's like he has like truly a style I don't. It's like only him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is cool.
He does.
It reminds me of Hellboy a little bit.
Mhm.
If I'm looking at
there's
the
like
right stuff.
like a little magnolia chunk in there, but like something grew around it, which is
no,
like,
totally. It's his own thing, but like, that I love the heavy use of like just blacks and shadows.
Yeah.
I need to get better at that. That's something I'm pushing myself towards. Oh yeah, he even drew a Hellboy. That's cool.
I'm sure he does these really like cool, like we were talking about, like little zines that are just him drawing like the Dune characters because he wants to.
Dude, yeah, these are beautiful, and they're like the spreads, like the like this have like a beautiful flow to the
He has
scene.
a really good eye. Like he's like, I think his composition is always super strong.
Yeah, this is really, really nice, and he likes cool stuff too. Like he's got like Chainsaw Man. He's got like the Iron Giant. Yeah, this is cool. That's sick. Let's get back to you though.
Right.
I love the fact that you're cutting these and physically like stacking them. That to me is the coolest shit, because that's another thing I'm like passionate about. The actual tactile, like paper craft paper, like that is so underutilized. Like you can do so much cool shit with paper. Like the fact that you're actually doing something in that realm is very exciting to me, because it goes back to when I was a little kid. Like we had this this book. It looks like 1800s circus, but like you can, all the pages are like perforated and you can pop out. It's like a paper play set basically.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to make something like that. Like I love making like objects out of paper, and you are kind of dipping into that realm of like, it's not just a printed image. It's like you're like physically cutting it, layering it, and making this beautiful composition. I think that's fucking awesome, and encourage you to explore that as much as you care to.
So, thank you. I want to. My big thing right now is like, I have some shows coming up, and I just need to like decide that I can take a risk on some of them. Mm-hmm. I think maybe now that like I've got other work and the sales from those shows aren't gonna like, I need that money, but I like won't go broke if I don't sell anything, kind of.
Right.
But like, this is the time for me to maybe push it in some directions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the like making like a delicate thing into something so gross is like a big part of what I love about it. I got plans. I don't know. I'm not ready to talk about them yet because they might be terrible ideas. I want to like workshop it, but I that's one of the things I love the most is making that stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool, man.
Thank you.
Very cool. Well, we've been going for like an hour and 10. I mean, I think I've asked all my questions. I wrote down some random stuff looking at your art, which is teeth, eyes, foliage, machinery, birds, burrowing portals, and portraits.
That's kind of all of it, isn't it? Sometimes I'm working on something and I'm like screaming not to add more teeth. Like it's like I have to stop myself. Like I gotta look into some of that shit. I think I was talking about earlier where it's like I make art and then I see what it's about and like try to. It's like there is no question that eyes and teeth are showing up in everything.
That's good.
That's the next thing for me.
That's like, it's good to have it's good to have, your touchstones, your calling cards. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
I felt like ashamed about it for a little bit. I was like, people are going to start noticing that like I always have this thing in them, like my elements, but yeah, I think just like accepting it is maybe the way to go.
Well, it looks cool from a stranger. I like
it. Okay, good. That's a relief. I do think like I feel like I've revealed all my secrets today. And if you just like Google everything I said I thought was cool and then look at my art again, you're like, oh.
Well, that's all of us, my friend. Oh, real quick, I did want to mention, you did some work in that Little Nemo
Yeah.
book. What the hell is it called? Dream. I have
Another Dream.
Yeah, dude. The thing that got me into comic books was my grandfather, who was a huge comic book collector, and he had everything. Like he had all DC, all Marvel, all like the Disney Duck stuff that's so fun, the Carl Barks stuff. Yeah. But the thing I was obsessed with, like anytime I asked him to look at something, it was always his Little Nemo collection. I fucking love Little Nemo, and I just think it's awesome that you made stuff. So
I also am like a huge fan. Like I'm a big Winsor McCay guy.
Yeah. He's buried here in Bushwick. I went to go see his grave. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have some friends that like specifically go to graveyards to see like go on graveyard tours almost. What's his grave like?
It's really understated. Like it's pretty big, but like it's not like fancy. Like there's no like little Nemo on it or anything like that. It just says Winsor McCay, but it was cool. I was shocked that he was here in Bushwick, but I mean, I guess he lived in New York City. But yeah, it's very understated. Like you wouldn't know he's anybody incredible.
Yeah, like the man who invented like the 3 things I love most.
Yeah,
his comics like still hold up. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. The art is
so old. They're the first comics.
Yeah, like you were talking about like earlier about like seeing people who are like super good draftsmen, but like not being excited really to necessarily, but like because you're kind of more into like the like homemade-y type of vibe. But there's something about go ahead. I was just
I like
say,
when people can draw also.
No. What's cool, he clearly has such an amazing imagination on top of like unbelievable draftsmanship chops. Yeah. Like no one can do it like this dude. Like it's insane. But also he's like building these mystical, magical worlds with that very grounded kind of architecture. It's and figure design, and couldn't do a word balloon for shit. But
that's a good point. Yeah, everyone's got a fucking weakness. He's not so great.
Tear down your legends.
The thing that like drives me nuts about him is like, what you just said. He could draw like very, very well, and he's like super imaginative. But he can just draw anything.
Yes.
Like there was no object that man didn't feel comfortable drawing.
It's insane.
Or at least I can't tell if he had a problem with it. It's like unfair.
Yeah,
is the word I like to use.
There's
a few guys
put you in your place for sure.
Right. You know what? Like it's funny you brought that comic up. Like technically, that's why I'm an Eisner winning artist. As I was.
Oh
in that book.
I forgot to. Yeah. I should have gave you that credit.
Doesn't matter. Because I don't really feel like I deserve it. My one page is not the reason that won an Eisner.
It's part of it. It's part of it.
Sure. Okay. I don't believe you. I strongly disagree. But no, I that book is really cool. But as soon as you I was like, oh, I love his work. Like I'm inspired by it. I think about it all the time. I'd love to make one of those. And as soon as I started, I was like, oh, I'm like, this is a fucking hard. Yeah. And I'm not as good. And I'm inviting a comparison to like the best guy.
Yeah.
Like to talk about like being humbled, like it truly.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't think about it like that. Yeah. I've never attempted to do anything Winsor McCay like, because it's like, there's no fucking way I could. Like he's just incredible.
Like Mobius has done Winsor McCay fan art. You know what I mean? Like the people that you've seen that have done it, like fucking Miyazaki, like Hayao Miyazaki made. And it's like, those guys, the other best guy. I think I think that book is really great, but when I read it, I'm always like, wow, it's like there's so many people in here that are not quite as good as Winsor McCay, you know? Which is still like, it's not, I mean that as an insult, like most people aren't.
Of course. Like I don't know if anyone living is currently that level. Like it's that magic sauce of like super incredible ability, wild imagination, and like you said, zero fear of tackling anything, literally anything. It's wild.
That's the Mobius problem for me. Is he's the other guy that makes me like furious. Like I don't think I could ever. Yeah. I love his work so much, but I if I ever get anywhere near the aesthetic, I start getting like uncomfortable because it's just he's so good.
Yeah,
was anyway. I have a feeling we could talk about this shit for a very long time.
Yeah, totally.
And we've already gone over, so
no, this was great. Yeah, we should though, just because I don't want to hog all your time. Dude, this was really great to meet you. Your art's extremely awesome. I'll put all your information in the podcast and the YouTube description so people can check out your stuff. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk, man. I know you didn't know me. We had a mutual friend who introduced you. I didn't know your work until he told me about you, and I'm like, oh my God, this is fantastic. I got to talk to this dude. And for you to agree to it and hang out for an hour and a half, I greatly appreciate it.
You're a
highly accomplished genius.
Oh my God. Very uncomfortable. No, I appreciate a chance to just like talk about all the stuff I love. Like this is the best.
Awesome.
I do, as soon as I get like sit back down on my workspace, aka my couch, I'll be like stressed out that I need to get a million things done. But I like, if I don't take this kind of break, I go crazy. Like,
yeah, totally.
I feel like I owe you one.
Oh, no. Man, let's keep in touch. I'll hit you up in the future. Maybe we can go down some weird fan rabbit hole on some stuff together. That'd be fun.
Hell yeah.
Cool, dude. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back again soon.